The next time you see whole wheat or whole grain on a label, don't believe it. Most of us have probably never actually eaten a real whole grain in our entire life. Most of what's marketed as whole grain is actually a refined, stripped down, chemically reconstituted version of the real thing. Sure, maybe you know this, but if you have ever made true whole grain bread from wheatberries, you recognize that what you bought at the store that said whole grain looks and feels nothing like your home milled true whole grain. And this right here is why we have an endless stream of individuals who are not satiated, have all manner of digestive issues, autoimmunity, even encephalopathy, and are becoming more resource depleted with each bite of whole grains. These are air quotes in case you're listening to this and not watching. So a whole grain, to be whole, requires the bran, the germ, the endosperm in the ratios found in the whole grain. There's a reason Costco organic whole wheat all-purpose flour doesn't look anything like the wheat berries you're milling into flour at home. This is because they are separating out the bran, the germ, and the endosperm, and then reconstituting in a specific ratio to give the hyperpalatability, the look, the feel that people have come to enjoy in the generic flour world. So we want the bran because it has the fiber and the antioxidants. We want the germ because it's loaded with vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids. And we want the endosperm because it has the starch, the protein components that make bread literally bread. You can't throw those guys to the side. You could say you actually have a superfood if you keep it this way. But once you remove the germ to make the flour more shelf stable, you add artificial B vitamins to make up for the ones you took out, remove the fibrous material and the polyphenols, you get the generic, ultra processed texture. You have completely lost all manner of wholeness. You now have a blood sugar spiking, craving creating, immune irritating, labeled food. My mantra is whole foods, not reassembled or reconstituted for the sake of money or addiction promotion because we can't stop eating it. Whole foods. Today is the day to begin training your palate and your children's and perhaps your grandchildren's to enjoy the taste, the textures of truly whole grains. The more we look into whole grains and they're using countless, healthy cultures, the more we see that the problem, once again, isn't the whole food substance. The problem is greedy humans preying on the human's desire for tasty convenience. Is gluten a problem? Gluten definitely is a problem. I've tested, at least 1,000, probably a couple thousand people over the years for gluten-related antibodies and found hundreds with immune reactions to gluten and the gluten-related proteins. But perhaps the reason for this gluten sensitivity, gluten intolerance, is not gluten itself, but the hybridization of whole grains. Do you know that einkorn wheat has half the amount of gluten as hybridized, hard and soft, red wheat berries? The gluten structure in einkorn is also much more fragile and it's easily broken down, which is likely increases its digestibility. It also makes it hard to make, fluffy bread out of it. But people say hybridization, it's not genetic modification. There's nothing wrong with it. And this is true. It is not genetic modification with a virus or bacteria. But when you change a grain from 14 chromosomes to 42 chromosomes or more, to promote higher yields, pest resistance, improve baking properties, be able to make it tolerate heavy chemical use, you are creating something that is novel and much more complex than the body's used to handling. The end result, as we see across the world where these processed grains, these ultra hybridized grains are consumed, is a confused immune system, and a trail of undesirable symptoms that follow. If you have autoimmunity, you have blood sugar issues, you have digestive challenges, allergies generally, then choosing einkorn or emmer or spelt over standard hybridized wheats, I think, is super high value and could bring symptom relief in many cases, even if you're not specifically sensitive to or allergic to wheat. And my opinion is that consuming non-hybridized grains that are organic, no glyphosate residues, that could be a nutritionally positive move. Sprouting, that's also great, but it's not even, I don't think it's really necessary. Sprouting, it ends up decreasing shelf life. And for those making bread at home, which basically, if you're going to go the true whole grain route, low hybridization, you pretty much have to make it at home. We're going to have to find a buddy who's willing to make it for you. Because the sprouting itself, like I was mentioning, it can make things more challenging related to bread making, the feel, the taste, the look. And right now, we just got to get something that tastes reasonable, right? That we can get our kids to eat, that we can get our grandkids. And so jumping to the sprouting as well would probably make that even more difficult. For people having the allergy testing or IgA food sensitivity testing that came back positive related to wheat, I think it is worth considering einkorn. As the genetics of it are considerably different than wheat that we're all consuming today and is really being tested. So unfortunately, because of the hybridization, the glyphosate, and the industrial flour practices many of us have consumed for years and years, we may still find that consuming einkorn, fresh milled, prepared breads is a problem for us. That it still seems to instigate an inflammatory cascade with sort of the gas, the bloating, the joint pain, the cravings. Know yourself and your tendencies to be sure that your body can handle it, and your body is prospering when it's consuming it. Set up some guardrails. Don't just jump in. So if you've switched to say einkorn flour, made your own bread at home using it, or other soft red wheats, I would be super curious to hear how your body responded, how you've done. If it was positive, it was negative, it was like just the same, as when I'm eating, the standard Costco flour that's supposed to be whole grain. All right, Dr. Matt here. I'll talk to you guys later.